Okay, now, Bumrah, we need to have a serious conversation. I want to talk to you about your timekeeping, the fact that you're nearly always late to this show, your approach to it, your intent, your attitude. We need to have a really serious discussion about all of that.
Yeah, like KL Rahul taught me yesterday, I let my performance do the talking. Well, I'm not going to listen to any external noises, no pieces of advice. I'm just going to focus on myself, and
There's a
you'll see.
surprise. There's a surprise. Just roll the bumper. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Over and Out with me and Bharat Sundaresan. And let's just get this show on the road. After the second ODI, England blasting their way to victory. Our first delivery of this over is, of course, he's a super freak. Super freak. He's super freaky. Bow, 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 bow. I have had that in my head ever since. I can't stop singing it. He is a super freak. Well, I'm sorry. He is, though, isn't he? I mean, it doesn't always happen. It didn't happen in the first ODI, but the acceleration of his innings, the way he got himself in, batting there at number 3, it probably won't always happen with Stokes, but I just, it is amazing. They got there. They didn't even have to touch the likes of David Malan, Joss Butler. They're without Joe Root. They're without Owen Morgan. And yet when it came to that chase, he just is able to switch on a flick and do things that no human should be able to do. I don't know. I genuinely think he's the most exciting player in probably any format, really, in a way. There are lots of other people who are coming up to take freak titles, but on a day when we saw that from Hardik Pandya and a day that we saw that from Rishabh Pant, and even when we saw some of the other performances from England, Ben Stokes being able to do that is incredible, and he's just ridiculous to watch. I don't even know how to say that. His technique, his clean striking, everything he did in that innings just showed why he's such an excitement machine that makes people love watching cricket.
Like you said, he just flicks that switch on certain days, and he turns on his freak mode. We've seen so many performances of this nature. Okay, Mel, enough. I can see you. It's all right. You can continue in the background while I talk about Superfreak Stokes. Oh God, I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, so yeah, he's just an incredible cricketer, and just seeing him hit balls into the open stand, empty stands at that Pune stadium brought back such wonderful memories. Because in 2017, when I was working on the Dhoni book, I would spend hours, like during the Rising Pune Super Giant, as they were called, training sessions, waiting for Dhoni to come and leave. And Ben Stokes was my only entertainment. He would just practice his big hitting, and I would just be amazed. And it looked a lot like the way it looked yesterday. He would just hit any length, any line, and just so easy. He's got such a beautiful bat swing. He makes big hitting look so easy. It's an aspect of his batting and his cricket that doesn't get highlighted as much as his other super freaky abilities. But it should. He's not someone you'll never see him look like he's hitting it very hard. He just has this beautiful swing. His eyes are always on the ball, and yeah, I mean, you don't know. I'm sure with Ben Stokes, there's so much more he has to give to cricket and to us before he's actually done. So I don't know how to describe him really. He's one of those. Uh, if I can use a pro wrestling analogy, he's one of those pro wrestlers on the big night when you want someone to just step up and do something special. He's always that one. He's always the big seller, and yeah, I think you can just watch. It felt like a highlight package as well, right? When he was wearing the.
That second part, like after he got to 50, that was insane.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like he was on video game mode where he snuck in somewhere and just pulled it down to easy. That's how we made it look. He made it look very easy.
Yeah, with stick cricket. I did see a comment there from Gautam Ray saying, I feel bad for you guys after games like these when you can absolutely say nothing about the main player of the game just because it was so freakishly ridiculous. That basically, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So we will move on to our second delivery of this over Ball number 2, the 2 J's, Johnny and Jason. We've been talking about this, haven't we, Bharat? The fact that there were lots of things coming up, stats about number of centuries with opening partnerships and they average over 60. Where they stand on the all-time ODI best opening partnership list and how you judge that. And it's actually almost unfair to judge, people like Ganguly and Tendulkar, for example, because these two epitomise just how much ODIs have changed in the past, like decade even, not even going back 2 decades, but just in the past decade. We saw it in the first ODI, and they essentially broke the back of the chase in the first ODI, and they did it in the second ODI. This time, they just had the backing. But for me, certainly currently, they are the best ODI opening partnership in the world, bar none, by some distance, I think. And where they will be seen at the end, I think they probably, if they continue like this for a while longer, I do think they will be considered the best opening partnership of all time if they're not now. But again, that's kind of unfair almost to others in the past, just because they have been a big part of how this game has changed so much.
Yeah, especially with opening partnerships, it's very era based, right? When you start judging whether they're the best ever or the best during that era. But when I was growing up, I thought Tendulkar and Ganguly just took opening batting in one-day cricket to the next level because they were not only consistent, they were scoring much quicker or than other opening partnerships. There was also Mark Waugh and Adam Gilchrist. And if you think about it, Sanath Jayasuriya and Rumesh Kalavitarana kind of tried doing what Roy and Bairstow and Roy and Hales before him are doing now. But 2020, or I don't know, how many years ago? Almost 30 years ago. Wow, I've aged. Anyway, like almost 30 years ago. But I don't think they were as good as Johnny Bairstow and Jason Roy. Sanath Jayasuriya, of course, is a legend of the white ball game and made a triple hundred Test cricket. But I don't think it came off consistently enough, and I don't think the world was ready for it back then. But the way Roy and Bairstow are not only like they average around 60 and they have put up so many 100 partnerships now and scoring at such a crazy strike rate and just like they keep going for the bowling, it's just amazing. It tells you how much one-day cricket has grown and how much it has grown as a result of England, which we will come to. And the fact that Johnny Bairstow now has 1100s. And he's, I think, already 4th on the list. Also tells you how long England took to, really get one-day cricket. If you look at their numbers, I'm always amazed by how their highest run getters are the likes of Morgan and Root, who all are in the 6,000, 7,000 bracket, whereas every other country has at least 3 or 4 guys who made 10,000, 12,000 runs. So England have not just caught up, but they've turned it around. But these two have been integral to that whole turnaround.
Absolutely. And it also brings to mind all the discussion about Alex Hales and where he should be and if he should be in there. How do you break up that partnership? I'm not sure that you would ever want to. Third ball of the over, keeping ODIs sexy. And you did sort of allude to that again about how England have done that. They almost made ODI sexy again in that whole post-2015 World Cup era. But they're keeping it sexy because you would have thought most times you look at a game like that, and even the way it started off the chase in the first few overs for England, you just thought, man, they've screwed this up, haven't they? They are so uneconomical. They let so many runs pile up on the scoreboard for the other side that you just think that there's no. And even though they've done it, and even though they have chased down massive scores, this was a big one, obviously, in India, the biggest, I think, chasing wise. They just keep doing it, and they've done it before, but you keep going back and thinking, they can't possibly. Surely they can't this time. And I do think that keeps ODI sexy. It keeps them relevant. We've spoken before about how bilateral ODIs and having context and outside of World Cups, do they really matter? England keeps you wanting to watch that because you know that they've always got something like this in them. And I think that's great for the game.
It is. And, after that World Cup final 2 years ago, when it felt like the majority of the world, including a large quantity of Englishmen and women, were feeling bad for New Zealand. They felt like New Zealand had been, it was unfair that they didn't win the World Cup. I was always of the opinion that England deserved to win the World Cup in whatever way possible because they kept ODIs relevant and they then turned it sexy. Because after the 2015 World Cup, when Australia won it at a canter, that World Cup had all these big scores. I think one day cricket as a format was dropping. T20s, of course, had taken over. Test cricket will always be relevant. That's the original form. But I think England, they did it because they were knocked out. And like I said last time, they had that get busy living, get busy dying moment. But the way they started playing one day cricket kind of brought it back into relevance. People wanted to see one day cricket again. Like, how can a team do what teams do in T20 cricket in two and a half more times of number of overs, like, doing it for 50 overs, the way England have done. And they brought people back into one day cricket and they won a World Cup, so they deserved it. And they continue doing that. But again, like we spoke about in the last show, it depends a lot on the pitch. This pitch, of course, the ball was coming on. We saw the way KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya, just the fact that at no point did they have to even second guess any shot. They could just hit it through the line. These kind of pitches, I think this England team at times is untouchable, and they did it without Root, without Morgan, without their best bowling attack. So it tells you how dangerous a team they are, but on this kind of pitch. But the fact that they're ready to back themselves and play the same way, regardless of what kind of conditions, what kind of circumstances, is what makes it sexy. It's almost like England are the Virender Sehwag of Test cricket. He just played cricket one way, and it's not like he didn't have a great defensive technique. It's not like he couldn't play on difficult pitches. It's just that he played the same way in every circumstance, and he made it look sexy, and that's what England are doing.
He did. We're going to keep moving on to our fourth delivery, which is what's India's plan. It's so frustrating, isn't it? It's hard. You know that there's the talent there, the players there. We've spoken about the makeup of the team, too many anchors, everything else. England really started with, but we keep going back to it, but it is really relevant, that 2015 World Cup and England with that 4-year plan. It's interesting now to see where England are at the moment with their plan and how they keep staying ahead of the pack or keep taking it forward. But what's India's plan in this cycle of ODIs? Do they actually have a long-term plan? They've got lots of great young talent coming through, but I don't see it there. The innings is built the same way. They've obviously got that approach. Is that always, it might work for them sometimes, but I don't look at India and go, that's what they're trying to do, building up to the next World Cup. Whereas you have been able to see that with England in the past, maybe not as definitively this time, although I think they're trying to refine some of those things that they did and keep the things that are working for them. Bowling is obviously going to be something I think that they will try to work on ahead of that the next World Cup. But what is India's plan? What is their overall arching players they're going to bring in and stick with them even if they don't do well? Where are they going? Or is this just another ODI series that's just happening as another bilateral series?
I think it's a cultural thing as well, Mel. You've been to India long enough. We're not the greatest long-term planners. Maybe it's because of the circumstances we live our lives over in India. So you really don't plan that far ahead. The next World Cup, yes, it is in India, but it's in 2023. You're in 2021. So the Indian way of going about it is like, Aaj ka dekhte hai. Just focus on today. Let's see, what we have in front of us. And having spoken to this team management, they really thrive there on winning series. You speak to them, they talk a lot about, oh, we've won so many series. It makes us the most successful team in sporting history. We can compare us with the All Blacks, and that's the kind of comparisons they make. So which tells you that they go series by series. But if you want to plan for the future, you could see someone like Shikhar Dhawan is so consistent. And it's no offense to him, but the way one day cricket is played, especially by England, if he takes the time he does to get to 100, does he hurt England? I don't know. Maybe he does. When you have the likes of Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya doing what they do, they showed what they can do yesterday. All you are then looking at is if you have someone like an Ishan Kishan or like a younger generation batsman who just goes bang, bang, bang from the start, like England do, maybe it'll make India a stronger team. I think it has to do a lot with attitude. But in terms of planning, I think they'll actually start planning about it maybe like, in 6 months to go for the World Cup because there'll again be three IPLs to go. Even though that's one day cricket, I think the IPL has a big impact on what happens in Indian cricket these days.
Okay, just a note, a comment there from Pranay Sukhavasi. I hope that's right. India's spin attack needs to change for the third ODI. Yeah, there's a good argument there. We'll get on to a little bit of spin as we go ahead with our next delivery of the over, and it is, as we get rid of Pranay, there it is, the Kuldeep conundrum. Speaking of spin, I like a segue. What's going on with Kuldeep? I mean, we saw so much of him just sort of hanging around in the nets and everything throughout the Australian summer. Not the confidence or the belief in him to play him overseas like there was, or that was a thought, of him. Where does he play in this India side? His figures over the past couple of years have steadily gone away, and I don't know if there's a combination there of the fact that he has been sort of sidelined so much, affecting confidence, and B, that opposition teams are kind of figuring him out a little bit more and really prepared to attack him, and he's not having that attacking leggy effect of taking as many wickets. And when a team like England goes on the attack, he's on the really bad end of it.
Yeah, it's funny, right? The start of the Australian tour, just seeing him bowl in the practice games and just speaking to people in the team management, they were very confident with the way he was bowling, the way the ball was coming out of his hand, the speeds he was bowling at. And they actually looked at him as being someone who could have an impact. But then, of course, everything turned around and he wasn't used much. He wasn't played at all. I think he played one game all tour. But it's not just the Indian team. He hasn't he didn't get too many games with KKR last year. I don't know how many games he's going to get with KKR this year. It's strange, like, going into that 2019 World Cup, Kulcha, they used to say Kuldeep and Yuzvendra Chahal were unplayable. They were running through sides and, winning a lot of matches for India. But going into the series as well, I was just checking his record against England. He had 10 wickets at 22 in 4 games, which is a very good record. But it's been like smashed to smithereens yesterday. And he just looks like a lost soul right now. But having seen him over the years, he's a very confident bowler. Like he still backs himself. He was not the happiest when he didn't get a game in during that test series, especially the fourth test. So you still think that you still back him to come good at some point, but right now, the series 1-all after the beating he's taken. I don't know whether he'll be retained for that third game, and then after that, how many games does he get in the IPL? The next few months are going to be crucial. Like, India need Kuldeep Yadav. I still think he's a match winner, but at the moment, yeah, his career seems to not just be in limbo, but it seems to be really flagging.
Yeah, it certainly is a bit of a conundrum for them. Now, our final delivery of the over is cloning Bhuvi. Now, I know we spoke about Bhuvi last time, but I just couldn't help watching again. I mean, the way that it's not that his deliveries seem innocuous. It's just not. He seems to do just enough all the time. Like, it's not that he bowls cracking bouncers all the time, but he bowls a bouncer to Ben Stokes and gets him out because it's just perfectly executed. It's not like he was necessarily hooping the ball, but he can get enough swing when it's swinging to just make it's not so there's extravagant seam movement necessarily, but just everything he does makes it so difficult for the oppositions to score. And I mean, if I were England, seriously, I'd be wanting to just scrape off a few skin cells as you walk past and get him cloned, because can you imagine if that England team had a Bhuvi in their bowling lineup that could go through that period and really not just take wickets but slow things down. He's so miserly. You'd never want to go for a beer with him because you'd have to pay for them all night. He'd never put his hand in his pocket to give you anything because he gives nothing away. And it just continually gets me over and over again. There's something about him that seems so innocuous. And unthreatening, and yet it really, really is. He's a phenomenal bowler, and I think most teams would be happy to clone one and have a Boovi in their pocket if they could pull him
I
out.
think he can. I mean, not to objectify Bhuvneshwar Kumar, but he's so proportionate. Like just look at him. Look at his the structure of his face. Everything's so proportionate, so precise. Very much like his bowling. And like I imagine, if you ever go out for a drink with Bhuvi, he'll be very precise with. He'll be I don't think he's a beer drinker. You can just look at him, and I'm sure he's like a Scotch drinker, but he'll be so precise about the measurements and just the way he is with his bowling. Like you said, he's not the quickest. He doesn't hoop it around like Praveen Kumar used to. He does swing it around, but not to that extent. He bowls a really nice bouncer. It's not a shummy bouncer which just jumps at a batsman, but he just does enough. He knows his limitations, as the cliche goes in cricket, and that's why the Indian team has always looked at him as like when he's fit, he plays. I mean, there's no question about it. You can have all these fast bowlers, Shami, Bumrah, Ishant, then Siraj and all of them. But if Bhuvneshwar Kumar is fit, he gets a game, and you know why. And and in a game like yesterday, on a pitch like yesterday, we spoke about it earlier. These subtle variations he has, like whether it's in line and length or just space or just what he does with his fingers. He's just a beautiful bowler to watch.
Yeah, just enough every single time. Now, that is our over, but I'm calling no ball. I'm calling no ball because I can see one there from Sparsh Tukani saying the affair between Ben Stokes and the umpire continues. Well, seeing as we have our resident umpire here, I know what that is about. That is about poor Kuldeep Yadav. I mean, we spoke about him. And that, he does something brilliant in the outfield, manages to get a direct hit of the stumps from the outfield, and no matter close-up after close-up, slow-mo after slow-mo, ends up Ben Stokes probably getting a benefit of the doubt. But was he out? Was he out, Bharat? Putting you on the spot. Would you? That finger goes up. I thought it was out. I thought it was out. Obviously it was super close, but yeah, I think Ben Stokes is pretty lucky here.
Yeah, and I think like our good friend Adam Collins is running a campaign to have like specialist third umpires. Maybe that's not a bad idea, especially now that you have home umpires. It's a challenge, right? You're not used to doing it. These are guys who've done hundreds and thousands of games out there in the middle. So to suddenly do work around technology and like to pick out all those things. Though, I mean, if we sitting at home can pick out whether whether the bat had gone past the line or not, he should be able to. But maybe it's time for where is Shamsuddin? We need to bring Shamsuddin back. That will solve everything.
Yeah, it is obviously benefit of the doubt was given at that point. Whether or not you agree, well, what's a game without a little bit of controversy? That's it from us today. We really enjoyed that second one. I was lying in bed watching on my phone because I just couldn't bear to go to sleep because I wanted to watch it all. Who knows what will come in the next one? But for now, it's over and out. He's a super freak.